What if the fairy tale was a lie? Not just a media exaggeration, not just a marriage on the rocks, but a full-blown betrayal, with hidden bank accounts, shell companies, and secret meetings that stretched across continents. While Prince Harry smiled for the cameras, completely unaware that the woman he once defied his entire family for was playing a dangerous financial game behind his back. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And now, the dream is over. Because just 5 days ago, at their Montecito mansion, just beyond the walls of their lush, palm-lined estate, Prince Harry told Meghan Markle, "I'm divorcing you." Let that sink in. Not a heated argument. Not a tabloid rumor. His exact words. In front of staff. Security. Their own children. Why? Because he discovered something she never thought he'd find. A secret offshore account in Meghan's name. One that had been quietly accumulating money for years. Untraceable. Hidden. Coded under an alias. With transactions dating back to before their first Oprah interview. How long had she been hiding it? Why hide it at all? And who helped her? Tonight, we unravel the real story. The story the palace is pretending not to know, the one Meghan's lawyers are scrambling to contain, and the one Harry never wanted to face. Until now. But let's not jump ahead. Because to understand the moment Prince Harry told Meghan to leave Montecito, for good, you have to go back to where the cracks began. Back to the moments that seemed picture-perfect, but weren't. Back to the subtle red flags, the strange phone calls, the business meetings disguised as spa appointments. This isn't just about money. It's about trust. It's about what happens when a prince gives up his crown, his homeland, and his identity for love, only to find out the love might have been strategic all along. Too dramatic? Maybe. But then again, so is the real-life soap opera that is the House of Sussex. Let's begin. The moment everything shifted. It happened on a Thursday. Quiet, sunlit. Not a paparazzi in sight. Harry had just returned from a solo hike, his usual escape when things got tense. He stopped by Archie's room, picked up a wooden giraffe from the floor, smiled faintly. Meghan was downstairs, laughing, probably on another Zoom call. She'd been unusually chipper that week. But then it came. A soft buzz. Harry's private phone, an encrypted device only a few insiders knew about, lit up. One message. No subject line. Just a name, Julian H. Julian H. wasn't a friend. He was a ghost. A private financial advisor Harry had once consulted during the early Archewell days. Fired after 3 weeks when Meghan insisted they go in a more modern direction. But here he was, back from the dead, with a message that read, "Check this. She's been moving money since 2019. You need to see the files before they disappear. This link is only live for 6 hours." Attached was a password-protected folder. Harry's hands trembled. Not with fear. With confusion. He hesitated. For just a second. Then clicked. Inside the folder. What he saw next didn't make sense at first. There were wire transfer logs. Dozens of them. Transfers to a bank in the Cayman Islands. Amounts ranging from $15,000 to $150,000. Dates circled in red. One in particular stood out. April 3rd, 2021. Just 1 week before their tell-all Oprah interview aired. There were scanned documents. Names of businesses he didn't recognize. Green Fig Holdings, Noble 11 LLC, Echo Vale Ventures. Each had one thing in common. They were linked to an address in West Hollywood. And then, there it was. Her name. Not Meghan Markle. Not Duchess of Sussex. Just Rachel M. Engelson. Meghan's real legal name from her first marriage. A name Harry had never once seen on any bank file or financial disclosure form since the day they wed. His stomach dropped. Not because of what he saw, but because of what it meant. She had used an alias. Her old name. That account had been built outside their shared finances. Outside Archewell. Outside all the agreements they signed together. It was hers. And hers alone. And the worst part? It had been open since before their wedding. Why now? Why is this story surfacing now? Why does it matter? Because the Sussex brand, Meghan and Harry's entire empire, has always been built on transparency, authenticity, and the narrative of a couple escaping royal control to live their truth. Millions followed them, donated, bought books, streamed Netflix documentaries. But what if that truth was curated? What if Meghan had a financial escape plan the entire time? And Harry? Was he just another chapter in her reinvention? That's the question now swirling through royal circles, Hollywood backrooms, and quiet PR offices from London to Los Angeles. The marriage was cracking. Quietly. They'd been fighting, sure. Sources close to the couple had whispered about stress, burnout, disagreements over parenting and projects. But Harry had stood firm. He'd defended Meghan publicly, repeatedly. Even when Spotify axed their deal. Even when Netflix allegedly paused new productions. Even when palace insiders accused Meghan of leveraging her Duchess status for personal gain. He stood by her. He believed in her. So when he read that bank account statement, dated before Archie's birth, before their Netflix contracts, before their public royal split, it wasn't just shock that hit him. It was betrayal. A cold, quiet one. The kind that doesn't yell, doesn't scream. Just sits in the corner of the room and waits to be noticed. Harry's face-off with reality. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat in his office, staring at printed versions of the files. He reread old emails Meghan had sent during the early days of Archewell. Mentions of securing legacy, family protection, shared equity. He saw them differently now. Not as poetic, but strategic. Was this about love or leverage? Was Meghan preparing for an exit from the beginning? Had she always planned to create a nest egg, separate, untouched, protected? He looked at the nursery monitor. Archie was asleep. Lilibet's crib beside him. The perfect picture of domestic calm. But the house itself? It was seconds from exploding. An audience on edge. Let's pause here. Ask yourself, if you found out your partner, your spouse, had been hiding hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, and used an old identity to do it, would you forgive them? Would you confront them immediately? Would you wonder how many lies you missed before this one? Because that's where Harry was. And soon, that's where all of us would be. Watching, listening, stunned. This wasn't just a rift between spouses. It was the undoing of a public myth. One Instagram caption at a time. The calm before the public storm. Of course, no one outside knew what had happened that night. Meghan posted a photo the next day, just her and the kids, barefoot in the backyard, surrounded by tomatoes and basil, smiling. The caption read, grateful, grounded, growing. But inside the house, she and Harry hadn't spoken since the moment he asked her, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she replied, "You wouldn't have understood." That line, that quiet dagger, you wouldn't have understood. What did she mean? That he was too naive, too trusting, too weak, or too in love? The tipping point. In the days that followed, Harry made quiet moves. He called his lawyer in London. He met privately with a security advisor. He asked a nanny to stay late one evening, and then called Meghan into the living room. What happened next? You'll hear everything. From the moment she walked in wearing that calm, polished smile, to the second Harry uttered the words, "I'm divorcing you," and how she responded with a line that, according to insiders, sent a chill through the entire Montecito estate. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What would you do if the entire foundation of your marriage shattered with a single email? Not a confrontation, not a scandalous photo, just an email, a quiet, cold message in your inbox. No emojis, no greeting, just facts, names, numbers, dates, truth, so raw it couldn't be denied, and so brutal it couldn't be unseen. That's exactly what Prince Harry faced. And what's haunting is how ordinary it all seemed, until that fateful moment. It was early evening in Montecito. The kind of Californian dusk that looks like it belongs in a Netflix documentary. A golden rose hue washed over the Sussex estate. The children were in bed. Meghan was in the kitchen, sipping a turmeric latte, scrolling her phone with one hand, texting someone with the other. Spotify was playing a soft playlist in the background. Norah Jones, maybe. Harry had excused himself hours ago. He said he was going over podcast notes. He lied. He was sitting in the study, door locked, curtains drawn, laptop open, a stack of printed documents spread out like the pieces of a crime scene. He wasn't breathing normally, because on the screen in front of him was everything. Everything he wasn't supposed to know. The email itself. It came from a burner address, j.hudson.secure@protonmail.com. The subject line? She's not who you think she is. Let that line sit with you for a moment. Can you imagine seeing that, next to your wife's name, sent from a ghost in your past? Harry did. He almost deleted it. Thought it was spam. Tabloid bait. A sick joke. But curiosity, that whisper in the back of your mind, won. He opened it. You trusted me once, Harry. You shouldn't have fired me. I didn't betray you. I kept the receipts. Because I knew this day would come. And now, so do you. Attached was a link to a private, encrypted drive. Password, Windsor 7. Harry blinked. Who else knew that name? Only someone very close. He clicked, entered the password, waited. The drive unlocked. What he saw? First, transfer logs. 6 figures. Repeated entries. Offshore banks. All under different names. Rachel M. Ingelson, M. R. Holdings, West Echo Trust. He scrolled further. Dates began in December 2018, just months after their royal wedding. But here's the twist. Each transfer corresponded with a major public moment. May 2019, birth of Archie, $250,000 moved into an account in Bermuda. March 2020, Meghan and Harry exit the royal family, $450,000 to a Canadian holding firm. July 2020, Netflix deal rumored $1.2 million into Citron Capital in Switzerland. Every public milestone was shadowed by a private withdrawal. Why? Why would Meghan hide money as their public image, and their marriage was supposedly blooming? And worse, why did she use an old legal name, the name she had before marrying Harry? Was this money from her past life? Was it a backup plan? A betrayal? Contradictions unfold. Harry's head spun, because it wasn't just the money. It was the why. Was Meghan preparing for a breakup all along? Was all the talk about leaving the royal family for love and privacy just a cover? She said they were building something together. She said, you and me against the world. But the evidence said otherwise. The transfers were separate, unattached from joint accounts. No record in Archwell filings. Nothing in their prenup disclosures. It was her money, stashed away, secret. And Harry? He didn't even know those banks existed. How could someone who claimed to trust no one but you do this? Was this emotional self-preservation or calculated deception? It's a question Harry asked himself over and over that night, and one he still hasn't fully answered. Who was Julian? Now, let's talk about the sender of the email, Julian H. Who was he? Back in 2020, when Harry and Meghan were launching Archwell and negotiating media deals, they briefly hired an external financial strategist to help vet potential investors. That man, Julian Hudson, a quiet, buttoned-up expert in ethical investing, used to work with philanthropic arms of major Hollywood studios. He raised concerns within weeks, specifically about Meghan's private dealings with an LA-based investor group operating under the name Honeyroot Media. He flagged conflicts of interest, emails being deleted, secret late-night calls. Meghan called him paranoid. She pushed Harry to cut ties. And Harry, blinded by loyalty, agreed. Julian was fired. Silenced with an NDA. Paid off quietly. Until now. Because Julian had kept copies of everything. And now that Harry was no longer unreachable, now that the truth mattered more than keeping peace, Julian sent it all. The emotional collapse. Back to the study. Harry stood up, pacing. At one point, he tried to convince himself it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe Meghan had a legitimate reason. Maybe it was for the kids. A tax shelter. A misunderstood investment. But deep down, he knew. He knew because he remembered how secretive she had become in 2021. The nights she stayed up late in her home office, claiming she was researching for her podcast. The second phone she kept in the bottom drawer, just for emergencies. The private accountant who only visited when Harry was away. He thought it was just Meghan being meticulous. Turns out, she was building a wall. And now, he was standing outside it. Cold. Alone. Lied to. The strangest detail. Among all the evidence, one file stood out. A simple invoice. From a discreet London law firm. Dated August 15, 2020. Subject line. Initial consultation. Dissolution strategy. Montecito Trust. Harry's heart sank. A dissolution strategy? In August 2020, they were still publicly portraying themselves as united, smiling in joint Zoom calls, launching Archwell together, talking about baby number 2. But behind the scenes, Meghan had already spoken to a lawyer about separating assets. Before they even moved into their Montecito home, before Megxit had fully settled, that one document broke Harry. Not the bank accounts, not the alias, But the fact that while he was burning bridges with his family for her, she was building an exit ramp, just in case. Tears and silence. They say Harry didn't cry. Not at first. He just sat still, frozen, staring at the screen, until hours passed. And then the tears came, quiet, confused, and angry. The kind of tears you cry not because someone lied, but because they made you believe they never would. That night, Meghan knocked on the door twice. Asked if he was okay. He said yes. She didn't know what he knew yet, but she would soon, because Harry wasn't going to stay silent. Not anymore. The decision. The next morning, he woke up early. Before the kids. Before the staff arrived. He printed every document from Julian's folder, put them in a brown envelope, marked it, for Meghan, and left it on her desk. Nothing else. No post-it note. No angry message. Just the evidence. Just the truth. He wanted to see if she'd say anything. If she'd own it. Apologize. Lie. But Meghan didn't say a word. Not that day. Not the next. And Harry? He started planning his next move. Because something inside him had shifted. And once trust is broken, some things never come back. But if Harry thought this betrayal ended with a hidden account, he was wrong. Because what happened next was darker, deeper, and far more shocking than anything an email could reveal. What if your perfect life was just a well-decorated illusion? What if the person you shared it with, your partner, your lover, the one you left everything behind for, wasn't building with you, but building without you? Prince Harry thought he had found peace in Montecito. That sprawling $14.7 million estate wasn't just a home. It was a sanctuary. A fortress where he and Meghan could finally be free from the palace, the tabloids, the whispers. They were supposed to be safe there. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't see, was that the lies weren't outside the gates. They were inside the house, right under his nose, hidden in plain sight, like secrets buried in the sand. And now, those secrets were clawing their way to the surface. The image of perfection. To the world, Montecito was their happily ever after. An endless summer of organic gardens, chicken coops, baby laughter, and podcast production. It looked like a California dream. Soft linens, rustic candles, artisan coffee tables hand-carved by ethical designers. And Meghan? Always camera-ready. Her wardrobe whispered relatable luxury. Her Instagram presence, through proxies, was all gratitude and groundedness. It was believable, even aspirational. But the truth? The truth was curated, controlled, crafted like a brand. And Harry, unknowingly, had become one of its props. Routine or rehearsal? Let's talk about the daily routine. Harry would wake up early, 6:30 a.m. sharp. Morning runs through the estate. Breakfast with the kids. A bit of time in his office working on veteran initiatives. Meanwhile, Meghan? She had her sacred morning block. That's what she called it. From 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., she was off limits. Phone calls, strategy meetings, Zoom calls with brand consultants, and her now infamous wellness check-ins. Harry assumed it was podcast planning, product development, philanthropic partnerships. She told him it was all part of her vision. But here's what we now know. Those meetings weren't all business. Some of them were with a financial strategist who specialized in asset protection and wealth distribution. Others were with former entertainment lawyers, ones who had previously worked on high-profile divorce settlements. And at least twice a week, a private courier would arrive at the gate. No uniform, no name tag, just a silver case, always handed directly to Meghan. Harry never asked. He thought it was product samples. But what was really inside? Signed documents, wire authorizations, internal memos labeled Echo Trust Structuring. Echo Trust, one of the names linked to the offshore account. Meghan's private world. Here's something insiders now whisper about. The house was divided. Not visibly, but emotionally, structurally. Meghan had a private office with a fingerprint lock. She had her own assistant, separate from Archwell. Her emails were encrypted, her calendar hidden from shared view. Even her personal phone, yes, the burner, was protected by a biometric lock that only accepted her left thumb. And the calls? Always at odd hours. When Harry was with the kids, or out walking the dogs, or away on solo engagements. Once, Harry heard her speaking in hushed tones in the pantry. He asked who it was. She smiled, kissed him, and said, "Just someone from LA talent. Nothing to worry about." He believed her. Because Harry wanted to believe her. Because when you've risked your entire royal legacy for someone, the last thing you want is to admit you might have been wrong. The disguise in plain sight. But now, with the documents on his desk and the truth unraveling by the hour, Harry began replaying moments, reanalyzing conversations, rereading text messages, and things started to click. Like the way Meghan flinched when he mentioned joint accounts, the way she steered interviews away from finances, the strange meeting she insisted he skip with Netflix execs in 2022, saying, "You trust me, don't you? I'll handle it better alone." She was charming, persuasive, radiant, but she was also hiding something, and Harry began to feel like a guest in his own marriage. The paper trail Meghan thought she covered. Harry didn't stop with Julian's email. He hired his own investigator. Quiet, discreet, a former MI6 analyst who specialized in financial forensics. And within a week, a trail emerged. One that even Meghan hadn't swept clean. A P.O. box in Beverly Hills registered under M. Ingelson. 3 consulting firms, none of which were declared under Archwell's operations, linked to a West Hollywood address. A ghost corporation in the British Virgin Islands with only 2 known transactions, one of which was a transfer from Meghan's alias account, dated 1 week after Lilibet's christening. And perhaps the most damning? An NDA filed in 2021. Signed not by Meghan Markle, but by Rachel Meghan Ingelson. Who was she silencing? And what did they know? The staff knew, or at least suspected. Whispers began to circulate. The housekeeper, who'd been with them since the Santa Barbara rental days, recalled finding shredded documents in the fireplace bin, shreds that looked like legal forms. The nanny mentioned overhearing a call in which Meghan said, "He won't know, unless someone opens their mouth." Even the gardener joked once, half serious, about hidden treasure behind the greenhouse. None of them connected the dots. But now Harry was. Every interaction now felt tainted. Every laugh, rehearsed. Every compliment, transactional. He had defended her for years, against the British press, against his own family, against the world. And she had, all along, been building an empire in the shadows. Meghan's public persona, a masterclass in control. It's important to acknowledge something here. Meghan is brilliant at public image. She knows how to light a room, how to deliver a quote, how to cry without smudging her mascara. She doesn't stumble. She doesn't fumble. She curates. And it worked. Her brand, crafted through carefully timed interviews, philanthropic gestures, and ultra-stylized aesthetics, was compelling. It gave the illusion of openness while revealing nothing. It was performance art, a fortress of relatability. But inside the gates of Montecito, Harry now saw it for what it was. Not a home, not a marriage, a set. And he, just another character in her show. Why didn't he see it sooner? You might be asking, how could Harry not see this? Is he that blind? That naive? No, he's human. And he was in love. Love doesn't just blind you. It wraps you in the comfort of assumption. It lets you rewrite red flags into misunderstandings. It seduces you into believing that silence means safety. And for Harry, he needed this to work. After leaving the royal family, after the public fallout, after the years of headlines branding him as whipped, lost, manipulated, admitting he'd been betrayed, it would be admitting that maybe everyone else was right. And for a prince who had already burned every bridge, that was unthinkable. Until now. The final confirmation. The last piece of the puzzle came in the form of a USB drive. Delivered in person. No label. No note. Just a drive. Left at the front gate by a courier who refused to identify themselves. Harry plugged it in. On it, a single video file. Security footage. From inside a luxury LA office suite. The date stamp. March 22nd, 2021. Meghan, sitting across from a well-known divorce attorney. Not discussing a current divorce, but strategizing how to keep assets in the event of public fallout. The exact quote. "He's emotional. He'll always protect the kids. He won't come after the money. So I just want to make sure I can walk away clean if it ever comes to that." Harry paused the video and sat still for a long, long time. Because in that moment, it wasn't just the trust that broke. It was everything. But if you think that's where the drama ends, you haven't seen anything yet. Because the confrontation, the actual showdown, hadn't even started. And when Harry finally looked Meghan in the eye and asked, "Was it ever real?" Her answer would break what little was left of the fairy tale. If love is built on trust, then money, hidden, concealed, coded, is its greatest betrayal. Because nothing reveals true intentions faster than a financial paper trail. When Prince Harry finally realized his marriage was a performance, he didn't scream. He didn't throw things. He investigated. Because when the person you love lies to your face, you start checking the shadows. And in Meghan's shadows, he found a second life. A financial double life so meticulously orchestrated, so carefully veiled, it took weeks of cross-checking encrypted accounts, corporate registries, and hidden trusts to begin unraveling it. And what he found wasn't just surprising. It was explosive. The initial discovery was just the beginning. Julian's email, the one with the offshore account, wasn't the whole story. It was the first breadcrumb. And Harry, desperate to make sense of the betrayal, began pulling on every thread. He brought in a new team. Quiet, untraceable, former intelligence officers with experience in financial tracking, cyber specialists, legal analysts, all sworn to secrecy under royal-level NDAs. What they found stunned them all. Meghan hadn't just hidden money. She had built an entire financial ecosystem outside their marriage. A shadow network, a fortress of wealth completely independent from their joint ventures. And it had been in motion for years. Alias accounts and obscure LLCs. Let's start with the names. Rachel M. Engelson, RME Consulting, Green Fig Holdings Ltd, Ardena Trust. All linked, all legally distinct, all obscured by layers of shell companies registered in international financial safe havens. But behind the legal jargon and bland corporate names, a pattern emerged. Money moved in. Then it moved again, and again, each time thinner, harder to trace, more protected. It's the kind of tactic used by celebrities who don't want their assets divided in a divorce, or by investors avoiding tax scrutiny, or, more dangerously, by people trying to outsmart their partners. Which one was Meghan? Maybe all three. Because Meghan wasn't reckless. She was calculated, and every move had a purpose. Follow the timeline, follow the motive. Here's where things get really unsettling. The timing of these financial activities didn't follow career milestones. They followed personal shifts in her relationship with Harry. March 2019. After a rumored fight over media leaks, Meghan opens a second trust in the Cayman Islands. September 2020. After finalizing the Netflix deal, $1.5 million wired to a newly created LLC in Zurich. May 2021. Weeks after Lilibet's birth, a $700,000 consulting payment from an unnamed Delaware firm to a Monaco holding account. Each movement corresponded to a point of friction, a point where, perhaps, Meghan began preparing, just in case. Not just preparing for freedom, but preparing for control. The LA wealth manager connection. One name popped up multiple times, Samantha Vane, a discreet, high-profile wealth manager in Los Angeles who had previously handled portfolios for influencers, reality stars, and disgraced CEOs. She specializes in exit portfolios, custom-built financial structures that allow women in high-net-worth relationships to retain independence while avoiding legal scrutiny. Samantha's signature move? Using donor-advised funds to disguise large transfers under the guise of philanthropy. And guess what? Meghan's documents included a transfer labeled Charitable Grant, Women of the Future Fund, $850,000. Problem is, that fund didn't exist. Not officially. It was a pass-through entity created in Delaware. Dissolved 11 months later. No record of disbursement. No beneficiaries. Just one large donation. Then silence. Meghan's real passion project. Herself. Publicly, Meghan's passion projects revolved around women's empowerment, mentorship, and media storytelling. But the deeper Harry's team dug, the clearer it became. Those platforms were cover stories. Brand partnerships, product placements, wellness retreats, and digital summits, all filtered through her lifestyle image, were also financial vehicles. At least 2 luxury sponsors revealed under NDA that their payments were routed to Green Fig Holdings, not Archwell. Another donor to a so-called charity initiative asked why their tax receipt came from RME Strategic Impact. Meghan's message was female empowerment. Her model? Brand monetization cloaked in purpose. And Harry? He had no idea. The red flag Meghan never expected Harry to notice. Here's the detail that cracked the code. On a sunny Thursday afternoon, Harry was flipping through old photos for a charity campaign. He opened a shared Google Drive. Inside was a folder labeled Marquesa Retreat, Final Docs. He clicked. It was a zip file of receipts, contracts, invoices. From a 2021 wellness retreat Meghan hosted with a boutique spa in Sonoma. But something didn't add up. The contract listed the vendor as Ardina Executive Wellness. Harry had never heard of it. He searched the name. Registered in Panama. Owned by Rachel M. Engelson. And just like that, it clicked. The retreat wasn't organized through Archwell. It was organized outside of it. But featured Archwell's logo, name, and mission statement. Which means Meghan used the nonprofit's identity to profit privately. And Harry's reputation? Used to legitimize it. Without his consent. The emotional toll. Let's pause. Imagine finding out that your face, your name, your marriage, your purpose, was used as bait. Used to draw in money for a private empire you had no access to. That's what Harry was grappling with. Not just the betrayal, but the weaponization of love. He didn't marry a brand. He married Meghan. Or so he thought. Now, every interview she gave, every quote about us, felt different. He replayed the Oprah sit-down. The tears. The pain. The drama. And he wondered, was that pain real? Or was it marketing? And if it was performance, was he just another supporting actor? From Montecito to Manhattan, the secret apartment. Then came the final blow. A hidden real estate purchase. A Manhattan apartment. Under a company named Rosewood Gray LLC. $3.1 million. Paid in cash. Documents dated October 2022. The same month Meghan was spotted privately visiting New York for UN women's meetings. According to records, she toured the property twice. Signed the offer on her second visit. Used a representative. All while Harry was in the UK attending his grandmother's memorial. He had no idea. No clue she was even house hunting. She told him she was staying at the Carlisle. But she wasn't. She was preparing. The final conversation. Or so Harry thought. Armed with everything. The account transfers, the alias names, the secret retreat, the Manhattan apartment. Harry confronted her. In the garden. Where they had once held hands and declared their freedom to the world. He looked her in the eye and asked, "How long have you been planning to leave me?" Meghan blinked. Didn't flinch. Didn't cry. She simply said, "I wasn't planning to leave. I was planning to survive." Cold. Calculated. Unapologetic. And then she walked away. Back inside the house. As if nothing had happened. But Harry wasn't done yet. Because if Meghan thought she had hidden everything, she was wrong. Because the one person she didn't expect to talk, did. And what they told Harry next would rip the final thread holding this marriage together. What if the person who saved you from the lie was the one who helped build it? Every scheme has a weak link. Every illusion has a crack. And Meghan Markle's carefully guarded financial empire, the secret accounts, the hidden holdings, the double life, was held together by more than money. It was held together by silence. Silence bought. Silence signed. Silence threatened. But someone finally broke it. And when they did, they didn't just blow the lid off Meghan's secrets. They also revealed how deep the deception went, and how many people had known the truth all along, including people Harry had once trusted like family. This is the moment the betrayal stopped being personal, and became something much, much bigger. The first clue, a name on the phone. It was 2:17 a.m. Harry was awake. Again. He couldn't sleep. Not with everything swirling. The bank accounts, the apartment in Manhattan, the Ardina Trust, the lies Meghan refused to explain. He was scrolling through old messages, looking for missed signs, anything he'd overlooked. Then his phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. Just one word. Enough. Then a follow-up. I worked for her. I know what she's done. And I can prove it. Harry's breath caught. He responded cautiously. Who is this? The reply? The person you almost invited to your wedding. At first, it didn't click. Then it did. Madison. Who was Madison? You've probably never heard her name before. But behind the scenes of Archwell and Montecito, Madison Clark was known as Meghan's gatekeeper. She started as a PR intern during Meghan's final season on Suits. Rose through the ranks fast. Intelligent. Detail-obsessed. Knew how to stay invisible while pulling strings. When Harry and Meghan launched Archwell, Madison became a shadow figure, never in the press, never in photos, but present at every strategic meeting. Her job? Control. Control over access. Control over optics. Control over documents, events, even Harry's public statements. She was a fixer. And eventually, she was a threat. So Meghan cut her out. Quietly. No press release. No goodbye. Just replaced. And now? Madison wanted to talk. The meeting that shouldn't have happened. They met at a park. Neutral ground. No security. No cameras. Just two figures on a bench, pretending they were strangers. Harry wore a hoodie, sunglasses, baseball cap. Madison looked nervous. Hair pulled tight. Hands trembling. She didn't waste time. I kept the files, she said. I couldn't delete them. Harry didn't speak. Just listened. Madison opened her laptop. No passwords. No drama. Just one folder. Monty Double Life. Internal only. Inside. Memos from Meghan to her financial advisor. Drafts of burner contracts. Ones that mentioned anticipated asset division. A recording of a Zoom call Meghan had no idea was saved, where she says, quote, "As long as Harry's in the fog, I can move what I need." He's emotional, not strategic. Harry froze. The voice was unmistakable. The tone? Cold. Corporate. This wasn't a woman protecting herself. It was a woman preparing to disappear with everything. But why now? Why did Madison flip? Because Meghan underestimated her. Madison had signed the NDA, yes, but she'd also been loyal. She believed in the brand, believed in the mission, believed in Meghan, until the day she found out that the charitable initiative she helped launch, Future Women Now, wasn't a non-profit at all. It was a funnel, and Meghan had cashed in the grant money through a side corporation registered in South Africa. Madison confronted her. Meghan told her, "You're replaceable. Keep your head down and stay out of things you don't understand." And that was it. Madison packed up her laptop, her conscience, and her receipts, and disappeared. Until now. Until Harry needed the truth. The most damning evidence. Among the files Madison shared was a digital ledger. It tracked Meghan's personal expenses, not the ones for the kids, not for the house, not for Archwell. Just hers. Clothing, flights, jewelry, legal retainers, private consulting. Each item coded and paid from one of the ghost accounts. RME Holdings, Green Fig, Echo Vale. But that wasn't the worst part. At the bottom of the file was a note. A single line, redacted in the versions sent to Meghan's accountants, but fully visible in Madison's copy. Ensure all transfers avoid U.S. Marital property classification, Rachel M. Engelson only. Read that again. That's premeditated financial separation. And it meant Meghan had been planning this since before their Montecito move. Not reacting. Planning. And every smile, every family photo, every interview, played out under the glow of a plan Harry was never supposed to discover. The brother who knew. But here's where it gets worse. Because Madison didn't just drop files. She dropped names. And one of those names was someone Harry never thought would be involved. Marcus Anderson. To the outside world, Marcus is just a longtime friend of Meghan's. The Soho House insider. The social fixer. The man who allegedly introduced Harry and Meghan in the first place. But behind closed doors, Marcus had been involved in more than matchmaking. He'd helped Meghan set up corporate accounts. He'd connected her with high-level asset managers. And according to Madison, he knew everything. He even told her once, jokingly, she's going to walk away with half his life, and he'll still call it love. Harry couldn't believe it. Marcus had attended private family moments. He'd held Archie. He'd toasted with Harry in the kitchen. And all the while, he'd been part of the plan. Harry's breaking point. After the meeting, Harry drove aimlessly, pulled over by the coast, watched the waves crash under a sky that didn't care about bank accounts or betrayal. He thought about his mother. What would she say? Would Diana have seen through it all? Or would she have welcomed Meghan with the same open heart Harry had? He didn't know anymore. He only knew that the fairy tale was over. And now, he needed to protect his children. Meghan's reaction. When Harry confronted her with Madison's files, he didn't raise his voice. He simply laid the evidence on the kitchen counter and said, "I know, and I'm done." Meghan didn't cry, didn't scream. She looked at the papers, then at Harry, then whispered. So she talked. No denial, no apology, just cold resignation. Harry said nothing more. He turned and walked out. But what he didn't know was that Madison had one more file, one she hadn't shown him yet, because it didn't just prove Meghan's intent. It proved who else in the royal family might have known and stayed silent. What does betrayal sound like? Not always screaming. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's the rustle of documents dropped on a marble countertop. A stare held a second too long. A single word left hanging in the air. Enough. That's what Prince Harry whispered to himself, standing alone in the Montecito hallway just past midnight, barefoot, exhausted, emotionally gutted, knowing full well the confrontation that was about to erupt would not only break his marriage, but ignite a media firestorm that could consume the world they'd spent 5 years pretending was bulletproof. This wasn't just about a secret bank account anymore. This was about trust. This was about identity. This was about realizing that the person you loved had never been honest about who they truly were. And finally, saying the one thing he had been too afraid to say since that sunny wedding day at Windsor. I'm divorcing you. But how did it unfold? What was said? Who witnessed it? And why, to this day, do staff members whisper about that night like it was a ghost story? Let's pull back the curtain and step into the fire. The calm before the collapse. The day had started normally, eerily so. Meghan had spent the afternoon on Zoom calls. She told Harry she was organizing a women's summit in Toronto, said it was about healing and sovereignty. Harry had nodded quietly. He no longer asked questions. Not after Madison. Not after the Manhattan apartment. Not after the damning files that showed, in black and white, just how many layers of deceit Meghan had carefully sewn into their shared life. That night, they had dinner together. It was forced, quiet. Meghan laughed once, at a joke Harry didn't make. He offered to clean up. She disappeared upstairs. The staff sensed something was off. One of the housekeepers said she overheard Harry muttering to himself in the pantry. At 11:43 p.m., the house security logs show Meghan walking out to the pool deck with a glass of wine. By 11:58 p.m., she came back in, phone in hand. At 12:06 a.m., Harry told the night nanny to take the kids and lock the nursery door. At 12:11 a.m., he walked into Meghan's office and closed the door. It was time. I know everything. The confrontation was not loud. Not at first. Harry didn't shout. He placed the final file, Madison's unshared folder, on Meghan's desk. She glanced at it, smiled faintly. What's this? She asked. Harry, you know exactly what it is. She paused, then walked to the minibar. Poured herself a second glass of wine. I assume you've made up your mind, she said, her tone chillingly casual. Harry's eyes didn't waver. I'm divorcing you. The words landed like a blade on stone, not because they were unexpected, but because of how calmly he said them. No trembling, no begging, just finality. And Meghan? She didn't break. Not yet. The first explosion. What are you divorcing exactly, Harry? She asked, circling the room like a predator toying with its prey. The family we made? The brand we built? Or the version of me you created in your head? Harry, no. I'm divorcing the woman who built a secret empire behind my back, who planned an exit before we even said I do, who used my name and walked over my trust like it was furniture. Meghan's eyes narrowed. You don't understand how any of this works, she snapped. You never have. Then came the first real explosion. Harry stepped forward, voice rising, not yelling, but shaking. I don't need to understand. I just needed you to tell me the truth. Once. Just once. A pause. And then Meghan muttered. I did what I had to do. Things fall apart. That was the moment. The precise moment everything shattered. Because Harry realized there would be no apology. No confession. No tears. Just justification. She wasn't sorry. She was proud. Proud of her independence. Proud of her foresight. Proud of her ability to outmaneuver everyone. Him, the press, even the royal family. And Harry? He lost it. He slammed the desk with his fist. I gave up everything for you, he roared. My home, my family, my country. And you played me, he choked. Meghan crossed her arms. You let me. A line so cold it echoed. Even the house manager, listening from the hallway, wrote in his incident log. 12:19 a.m., loud verbal confrontation. Suspect emotional escalation. Suspect emotional escalation. He had no idea how much worse it would get. The staff sees too much. Let's break from the confrontation for a moment. Because while Harry and Meghan fought behind closed doors, the house wasn't empty. Staff were still there. A security rotation had just changed shifts. The night nanny had stayed late. 2 assistants had been organizing next week's charity boxes in the foyer. Which means, when Meghan shouted, "You think I did this alone?" half the house heard it. That line changed everything. Because up until that moment, everyone had assumed the secrets were Meghan's and Meghan's alone. But now there was implication. There was collusion. Someone helped her. Someone in their inner circle. Possibly even someone from Harry's own family. Harry's staggering realization. That line rattled Harry. He stopped cold. "You mean Marcus?" he asked. Meghan didn't flinch. He tried again. "Who else? Who helped you set this up?" She didn't answer. Just took a long sip of wine. Harry pressed on. "Was it someone in the palace? Is that why you were always 3 steps ahead?" Meghan finally said something. But not a name. Not an answer. Just this. "You were never the one they wanted. You were just the one who made noise." A dagger. Right in the ribs. He backed away from her. And left the room. The Montecito exodus begins. Within the hour, Harry called his lawyer in London. "Draw up the paperwork," he said. "We're done." By dawn, moving trucks had been called. Security protocols changed. Meghan's personal assistant was told to pack her private belongings only. The couple that once vowed to leave the palace and fight for freedom together was now at war. And Meghan? She wasn't leaving quietly. Because the next morning, she posted a message, carefully worded, vaguely empowering, on her brand's private page. "When a woman chooses herself, the world calls it betrayal. I call it bravery." No names. No photos. But the timing? Obvious. And the world? Started watching. The fire reaches the public. Leaks began immediately, first to celebrity gossip blogs, then to British tabloids, then, shockingly, to an American financial watchdog site, detailing one of the shell companies under Meghan's control. Someone had opened the floodgates. And while Meghan tried to spin it as financial independence, Harry stayed silent. Until reporters caught him outside a Santa Barbara charity event. "Is it true you're separating?" Harry looked directly into the camera. "Ask her about the Cayman account." No denial. No PR training. Just the truth. Raw and unfiltered. And with that, the Sussexes were no longer a united front. They were a public battlefield. But Harry's nightmare was just beginning. Because the people Meghan hinted about, those who may have helped her, they weren't just Hollywood types. One of them was wearing a crown. What if the betrayal wasn't just one person? What if the deception you uncovered wasn't the whole story, but just the tip of a deeply rooted, carefully protected network? That's what Prince Harry was about to discover. Because Meghan Markle hadn't just acted alone. She hadn't built secret accounts, ghost companies, and private trusts in a vacuum. Behind every transfer, behind every alias, behind every suspicious retreat or mysterious legal memo, there were names. Advisors, strategists, facilitators, people who smiled at Harry's face, clinked champagne glasses at their wedding, laughed at baby Archie's first birthday party, while actively helping Meghan build her escape plan. And perhaps worst of all, not all of them were strangers. Some were supposed to be on his side. Some wore tailored suits. And some wore royal insignias. The whisper Meghan let slip. It all started with a single sentence. "You think I did this alone?" Meghan had spat it like venom during their midnight Montecito fight. At the time, Harry thought it was a deflection, a way to dilute blame. But days later, as the dust settled and legal teams began circling like vultures, the phrase kept echoing. "I did this alone" would have meant a lie, a con. But "I didn't" meant a conspiracy. So Harry did what he always did when he needed clarity. He returned to the files. And there, buried in Madison's whistleblower drive, was a contact list. An unassuming spreadsheet labeled Tier 1 External, Q2 Roster. He hadn't opened it before. Now he did. And what he saw made his blood run cold. Who was on the list? The list contained 14 names. None royal, but several very familiar. And all of them had something in common. They had ties to Meghan dating back years, even before Harry ever appeared in her life. Let's break it down. 1. Marcus Anderson, the gatekeeper. You already know his name. Soho House executive. The alleged matchmaker between Harry and Meghan. But he wasn't just a friend. Madison's files confirmed Marcus handled logistics for Meghan's off-grid meetings, setting up private rooms, encrypted calls, and even arranging shadow legal consultations during their time in Canada. In one email, Marcus wrote, "Ensure the Cayman's route is still clean. She wants to avoid Delaware if Harry starts asking questions." That email, dated March 2020, right in the middle of Megxit negotiations. So while Harry thought they were planning a life together, Marcus was helping Meghan build a path out. 2. Samantha Vane, the architect, a financial strategist with a client list full of reality stars, high-profile divorcees, and quiet billionaires. Meghan hired her under a code name, E. Rose. Samantha specialized in off-the-record trusts, shell company nesting, and reputation firewalls. She was the one who designed Meghan's parallel structure. The mirrored financial system completely separate from Archwell, hidden behind philanthropic language and female empowerment messaging. In one document found in Madison's drive, Samantha describes Meghan as smart, emotionally adaptable, and well-branded. She understands risk, but believes the payoff justifies it. Very clear she's not staying married past 2025. That's right, a projected divorce timeline, years in advance. 3. Delphine Roussel, the legal firewall. A French-American attorney based in Geneva, known for building covert clause contracts in celebrity prenups. She was hired to review Meghan's legal insulation post-Netflix deal. According to a memo, Delphine was the one who advised Meghan to sign all soft documents under Rachel Ingelson, while keeping her Meghan Markle persona press pure. Translation: legal maneuvering behind one name, public charity work behind another. Compartmentalization. Classic misdirection. 4. An anonymous UK insider, the real shock. Here's where it gets chilling. On the final page of the spreadsheet, there's a redacted name, tagged only as W. Under notes, it reads, has provided occasional internal briefings. Sensitive. Royal adjacent. Not aware of full strategy. Harry stared at that line for a long time. Royal adjacent. Occasional internal briefings. Was it a palace staffer? A cousin? Someone from the duchy? A disgruntled aide? The name was blacked out. But the implication was horrifying. Someone connected to his own blood had been feeding Meghan intel. And maybe, just maybe, they thought they were protecting her, but they were destroying him. The network's purpose. Now, let's be clear. This wasn't some Ocean's 11-style heist ring. It was something far more dangerous. It was legal, quiet, professional, cold. This was a network designed to secure Meghan's wealth away from marital property, build parallel income channels protected from press and partners, create a clear exit strategy, complete with PR contingencies, maintain emotional dominance through information asymmetry. And Harry? He wasn't just uninformed. He was deliberately kept in the dark. They didn't see him as a partner. They saw him as a variable, a risk, a liability. When the mask slipped, the turning point came during a private mediation session. Lawyers, advisors, silence. Meghan sat across the table, looking calm, in control. Harry's lawyer handed over evidence, the contact spreadsheet, the asset map, the shell company tree. Meghan barely blinked. She turned to her attorney and whispered something. Her lawyer responded aloud. We're prepared to argue that all of these accounts were built before full cohabitation and under separate brand architecture. Harry stood up. Brand architecture? He snapped. Is that what you call our marriage? Meghan turned to him and said, without emotion, it was always a joint venture, Harry. You just didn't read the fine print. There it was. The mask. Gone. No tears. Just clarity. And strategy. The quiet confession. After that day, Harry met privately with Madison one last time. He asked her point blank, was this always the plan? Madison hesitated, then said, the plan changed, but the backup never did. She hoped it would work, I think. But she never stopped preparing for the moment it wouldn't. And that told Harry everything he needed to know. Because hope without trust isn't love. It's leverage. And he'd been leveraged from day one. What comes next? As the media caught wind of the financial web, leaks began to pour in. Marcus went underground. Samantha Vane, suspended by her firm, pending ethics investigation. Delphine Roussel, resigned from her legal practice in Geneva. The royal family, silent. But behind palace walls, whispers turned to roars. Because someone connected to the firm had facilitated this. Someone close. And Harry? He was about to find out who. Because a single letter was waiting for him at Kensington Palace, sealed in crimson wax, signed with an initial he never thought he'd see again. What if the warning you ignored was the very thing that could have saved you? What if the person you thought was trying to control you was actually trying to protect you? And what if the one voice you pushed away, over and over again, was the only one that truly saw through the illusion? For Prince Harry, that voice belonged to his brother, Prince William, the heir to the throne, the man the media once painted as the calm to Harry's chaos, the so-called golden boy of the firm, whose carefully measured words now echoed like a prophecy. "She'll ruin you, Harry." At the time, Harry dismissed it, called it jealousy, called it snobbery, told friends William never gave Meghan a chance. But now he wasn't so sure. Because with the collapse of his marriage, the unraveling of a secret financial empire, and whispers of betrayal snaking their way into royal corridors, Harry was about to realize that William's warning wasn't just accurate. It was inevitable. The letter, the crimson-sealed envelope, arrived 2 days after Harry's Montecito meltdown, delivered not by courier, not by lawyer, but by a trusted member of the palace's private correspondence unit, addressed in careful script. HRH the Duke of Sussex. Private, eyes only. Harry opened it in his kitchen, alone. Archie was asleep. Lilibet was with the nanny. Meghan was nowhere to be found. Inside, a handwritten note. From William. Terse, formal, but unmistakably personal. I know you're hurting. I'm not here to gloat. I'm here because what's coming next is worse than what you think you've survived. And there are things you need to know. Things Father hasn't told you, and Meghan never would. It's time we talked. No press. No lawyers. Just us. W. Harry sat down. He stared at the letter for a long time. And for the first time in months, he felt something unexpected. Relief. Flashback. The original warning. To understand the weight of William's words, we have to go back. Back to 2017, just months after Harry and Meghan's relationship went public. William had requested a private dinner. No staff. No courtiers. Just the two brothers. According to insiders, William said, "Look, I'm not saying she's wrong for you. I'm saying you don't know her. You've known her 5 minutes, Harry." Harry bristled. He thought it was elitism. That William was judging Meghan because she was American, divorced, from showbiz. But that wasn't it. Not entirely. William had done his own digging. He'd quietly asked a contact in Canada about Meghan's past, about the carefully curated image. The response: "She's sharp, ambitious. She's not playing the same game as you." William tried to tell Harry, tried to say, "This isn't like Cressida or Chelsea. She has an agenda." Harry shouted, told William to back off, told him, "You're just afraid she's more modern than Kate." It was the ugliest fight they'd had since their mother's funeral, and they hadn't been the same since. The meeting. Now, years later, the brothers met again. This time, not in the palace, but at a secluded estate outside Oxfordshire, one of the Queen's old countryside retreats. No aides, just 2 mugs of tea, a fireplace, and 1,000 unspoken wounds between them. Harry arrived first. William walked in 10 minutes later. He didn't hug his brother, didn't shake his hand, just sat down and said, "I told you." Harry nodded. He didn't argue. He couldn't. William's intel. What followed stunned Harry. William had known about parts of Meghan's financial network for over a year. How? Because palace legal teams had stumbled upon a string of corporate filings during routine checks on Sussex-linked charities. At first, it looked like standard tax structuring, but then names started showing up that raised red flags. Marcus Anderson, Rachel M. Engelson, Samantha Vane, and worst of all, a known fixer who had previously been involved in funneling funds for Prince Andrew's scandal fallout. William ordered a quiet investigation, but Charles? Shut it down. Let him live his life, the king had said. If he wants out, we can't.